Good evening. What's going on? Logan Skis here. Tonight we're going to be breaking down the origin story, deliverable, and the venture map. And if you're watching this, you'll see this is the second video I'll be producing in this domain under culture. So culture is under vision, and we consider that the first step in a journey of mapping out our businesses. We call it the incubation framework. Once we're complete with the incubation framework, we'll get a chance to determine how we'll approach market traction and what that looks like to connect with our market in meaningful ways across the span of our customer journey as we generate traffic into a funnel that leads to sales conversions. Last but certainly not least is where our solution actually will exist. And that's out here. We call that operational excellence because it reminds us who we are and what we do on a daily basis. It's already got a few guiding cornerstones within it. As you can see, we've got our hero's journey here represented in the second line, and we've got a wonderful touchpoint system from Joey Coleman and his book, Never Lose a Customer Again, that we've implemented. We really believe in Joey's work there, and I love to integrate it. All respect and props to his great efforts there. Highly recommend the book. If you're going to listen to something on Audible or grab the hard copy, I've done both. It's well worth the read and the listen. Getting his free PDF online will also give you these exact same assets that I'm working with here effectively. So, Joey Coleman's the man. Thank you for breaking down the post-purchase emotional journey for our customers and providing a implementable framework to make that meaningful and, I should say, operational. Over the journey, we're also going to define this deeper level of insight. And no business is truly complete without processes. So as we go through this process of defining things like our culture and what we covered last time, which is our guiding principles, these assets represent the nucleus, the purpose, the rationale, and the reasoning behind why we're doing something. We've discussed the surrounding element of the nucleus, of the core purpose, the just cause behind our organizations. That surrounding element is called the team. And our team is composed of characteristics and skill sets. These are aspirational for our group. And we agree on how we're going to show up and what kind of behaviors are most impactful to reach our goals as a group. We define leadership standards and environmental priorities. From there, we begin putting pen to paper on our solution, and we use language that resonates with our individual tribe, our individual squad, our unit, our group, team, however you think of that. That's most meaningful. We want to have a unique language that orients on exactly what we do in our own words. So we covered things like that and the timelessness of this skill set and why it is truly the anchor and the ideological root for every other level of our business development. So we can explore further things like defining our leaders, conducting a team tapestry, visualizing everyone's personality profile through the Enneagram system. You can even say stuff that we want to do for later, as simple as a post-it note up on the board. I know the vivid vision would be something delightful to have included in this space. But as time is of the essence, we're going to continue pushing forward into today's element. And that's in our second row here. So we can't always choose to extend down the board from left to right. But at other times, we want to drive deeper and effectively conduct a pile driving measure from a business collateral standpoint. In other words, we want to deepen the concentration of our intellectual property within a given domain. The core narrative is important for team alignment. It's important to reinforce culture. And it's important to gain maximum buy-in from those who are closest to the meaningful objectives we set as a group. You want these teammates to feel empowered to operate as autonomous leaders and to do the best work of their entire careers. In order to accomplish that, several things have to take place, not in the least of which is getting on the same page with everyone. A great way to set a foundational bedrock for shared resonance, alignment, and common effort for a team is with a story. When we consider story, there's many ways we could break this down, much like a jewel or a gemstone with many facets. We can approach core narrative and story from many different angles. A prism, in a sense, much like the human mind itself. Origin story is one facet of a narrative prism that is great for a team to focus on early and truthfully at any point in time. This origin story is something that evolves and matures over time. It's something that we can consistently contribute our perspectives towards as a group of leaders, so we can weave together alignment and where we're coming from. Because unless we have an ideological anchor on where we've come from, it's quite difficult to understand the journey that's brought us here today. And if we can't understand where our current state is, or if we have a limited perspective on our current state, as leaders, our ability to analyze the situation and make strategic, calculated moves that mitigates against risk, maximizes our upside, and leverages our strengths is going to be impaired. And that's simply negligent. So we like to consider these deliverables as living, breathing assets in the business. There's a principle we call, and we share this in our strategy sessions, the iteration cycle or digital evolution. And it's our view that these assets are much like foliage. And in the sense you plant the seed, you can begin with just Post-it notes. But over time, with enough awareness, concentration, effort, and alignment, it evolves and grows and expands. And before you know it, you've got an entire game board called your business. It's mapped out for you to see. What are the implications of such a thing? Well, for starters, I could share that the implications of this type of technology cannot be overstated. Aligning the team around shared processes, around brand collateral, around customer fulfillment, around best practice, around the big picture. These things carry second and third order effects that are exponential in nature. This technology is in effect a visual repository for all of your intellectual property, at least displayed within the visibility levels appropriate. For sensitive information, there's a restricted privacy. For company-wide information, there's more of a community-oriented approach. And we analyze the visibility of boards' data in real time with stakeholders to ensure that alignment is maintained and access to relevant information is graduated with the leadership hierarchy of the organization. But tangents aside, beginning with the origin story is vital and of importance. And it's why it's the very first step after we've completed why we're doing this, who's doing it, how we're going to show up, and what we're going to try to do. Because before we can go further into the planning stage, we really want to know in here and in here that everyone's on the same page and we're coming from a similar location as a group, right? One of these kind of things. So, this board is of high importance. I'm going to finish off the video here in just a few moments. But before I do, I figured I want to actually do some real work in this video and not just show a completed thing. But for those of you who are trying to do it themselves, that's why we built this in the first place, because we had to do it ourselves. We learned a lot. We feel like we're standing on the shoulders of many giants. But we had to learn a lot the hard way. And if I could save just one person a little bit of heartache and frustration like I had to encounter on my journey, then that would have been beautiful from my perspective. I view these things as open resources for a new, and my hope is growing community of people who demand a better working experience and believe that technology should serve people, not the other way around. Fitting my mind into an Excel spreadsheet box every day is difficult to bear. So a more visually compelling experience that is liberating for the mind and opens up new channels for creative expression that's authentic. That's what it's all about. All poetry aside, I want to just take a minute here and introduce a little thing called Jarvis. So if you're watching this right now, I highly recommend you go to conversion.ai and you just give this website a look over. Jarvis is a super smart artificial intelligence that does copywriting. Here he is in robot form. And experiencing Jarvis is a pretty cool thing. So today I wanted Jarvis to help me talk about the origin story. So he built this. I built it with him. Admittedly, he did a lot of the work. I'm just gonna explain the above to a fourth grader. So you can just kind of get a sense for what Jarvis does here. If you're looking for a place to start, think about what caused the group of people in question to become different from other groups or cultures around them. What do they value most, and why is this significant? How did these values shape their history as a culture over time? These questions should help you get started on creating an interesting backstory that will make sense for your unique situation. Common themes in origin stories. A group of people are forced to leave their homeland and settle elsewhere because of a natural disaster, war, or other event that causes them to become refugees. The group has no idea where they're going, but must follow a guide for safety purposes. A common theme in many cultures' origin stories is being guided by animals. So that's the fourth grade explanation, and I have a blog post up here that kind of breaks it down a little further than that. He did most of this, but we fed the beast, we fed this AI with some raw content, admittedly, and a bit of a structure that we have. We know some elements of this particular structure of narrative. So we fuse those elements together as a draft, and we leverage the power of artificial intelligence to expedite some of the copywriting process for us. This sort of thing allows us to bring in collateral. It allows us to deploy a blog. It allows us to reinforce some of our efforts in communications. Ultimately, these things will be fused into voice clones, and they will be fused into avatars, personas, artificial intelligence-driven personas. And my belief is that the fidelity of the video will at least be to this grade, if not far beyond. The background may even look more cool, and the clarity of my voice may even sound like it was done in a studio as opposed to a bedroom. So what I'm ultimately getting at is Miro is a perfect complement for Jarvis. It's a perfect complement for apps like Descript, Video Ask, and Synthesia. That's right. These guys are great. Every single piece of collateral in the entire brand could be explained, trained, and marketed, if not delivered, with brand personas and experienced in a pretty personalized way.
Product videos are great for showing your customers how your product works. With Synthesia, you can personalize them to each individual user.
Right. That's pretty cool. So eventually we'll have training videos and workshops and reference boards, and it'll be connected to live experiences and pages with analytics being represented in real time. All in all, I'm going to post up the blogs specifically on the origin story, and maybe I'll do an additional video just to read it through, as well as the supporting asset of the blog, the industry story of where we're at, and then the venture growth story. I'll break down the format, and then read the copy, and then post it up, and we'll see how it goes. So again, I view this as sort of a video log, as a documentation of the experience. I admittedly have a lot of great content to reference. My colleague and I, Mr. Jack, have been hard at work building out our understanding and taking a lot of notes. And now I'm here to share those notes with you. I'm here to share what we've learned and how we approach specific elements of business architecture and service design and brand collateral, understanding the identity of our company and why we exist. From there, I'll break down our plan, and we'll have all sorts of assets that will represent some best practice from the project community, from the PMP group, and we'll define deliverables and timelines and making sure expectations are managed. A communication plan is put in place. We'll have some objectives and translate those from our core. From there, we'll get into market analysis, SWOT assessment, business model canvassing, value proposition. We're going to determine our experimentation strategy, extract our hypotheses. Then we're going to have a go-to-market strategy and implement all of that and build a marketing plan and execute on media production, then distribute that through our active campaigns in the world as we distribute our collateral. From there, we're going to graduate. Now, we can always go deeper, but if we want to push into the second domain, we're going to see what happens on the other end of all of that. Once the collateral is generated and produced, once the collateral is generated and distributed, it's shared with the world, we're going to have traffic. And we want to understand what traffic is and how to best leverage that to build relationships with our target audience, and how those relationships will, over time, become nurtured into warm leads, and happy customers. So from that point in time, we're going to look into how we best retain our customers, what the ideal financial relationship looks like with customers based on a lot of different frameworks available. We're going to study that. We're going to break all that down, and hopefully we'll find something that is relevant and meaningful for all parties involved, and maximizing capital efficiency, maximizing market competency, and reinforcing the psychological safety of our team's culture every day of the week. That's all I've got for now. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate your time, and I'll look forward to connecting with you next time as I do a read-through of the origin story deliverable, but also we're going to go ahead and do a read-through on the origin story. And I'll share what Jarvis and I put together, and we'll get your feedback if there is any. If not, I'll just keep on driving this bus forward all the way until the end, and you can build out your own venture map with me step by step. Simply click the link below in the description. Let me know where to send your venture map template, and shoot it. You can even book me for an hour at no charge. I'll connect with you on Zoom, implement this in your own mural board, help you get things squared away, and give you a little bit of an implementation plan to keep running it on your own and complement with this video series. It's definitely time for me to rock on out of here. Thanks so much. Appreciate everything, and I'll see you on the other side.